Hey, welcome back to Recently Played, and this is K-pop Ketchup, where I'm going to be catching up on a whole bunch of K-pop albums that have come out kind of recently. I feel like K-pop mini albums come out so frequently that it'd be fun to just review a whole bunch of them at the same time. So let's get into it. Alrighty, first off, we got Girls by aespa, and I gave their debut mini album Savage a pretty positive review. I thought that overall that was a pretty solid one. So, I was looking forward to their follow-up in 2022, and man, this one is messy. I don't know what was going on here, but this album is just nowhere near as cohesive as the last one. One thing I really liked about their last album was that I thought its sound and concept was quite consistent from front to back. I even thought they could have taken it a step further, with that hyper pop experimental sound. I kind of really wanted to hear them push the button and really going above and beyond. And this one just feels like a bit of a step back. And not only that, this whole album just feels very slapped together. Personally, I wouldn't even call it a mini album. It feels more like a single with some B-sides and rarities tacked on there, which I wouldn't have minded at all, but they're calling this the second mini album, and it certainly doesn't feel like the second mini album. Title track, Girls, attempts to continue the main sci-fi narrative of this kind of dark hyperpop concept that aespa has become known for, and I think it's the only track that really clearly does this on this release. There are some really cool production elements on the track, but there is just way too much stuff on there. It's disorienting. I understand the idea of wanting to grow and develop a concept, but it's as if they thought that the answer is always to just stuff more and more in there. It's just way too much by this point. I thought Next Level was cool. It was simple. It was kind of weird but effective. Savage, still pretty cool, getting weirder, putting more in there, and then this is just way too much. After listening to Girls, it really didn't leave much of an impression on me. It felt like a lot of different ideas that individually would have been cool if they took the time to really flesh them out. I didn't think I'd be saying this, but after listening to this track, I feel like their sound and style is just getting a little stale. And besides the title track, I don't really think there's a lot worth noting on this album. We got the track Lingo, which is just kind of a strange, almost country pop. I don't even know what was going on there. But yeah, there's some really generic bubblegum pop tracks. Besides that, we got some previously released singles which really just sound tacked on there. An English language version in the middle of the album, which is just kind of a strange choice as well, and really feels like they phoned it in on this one, and I think it's sad because they're way too early in this to be sounding so complacent on a mini album. 5 out of 10. Alrighty, next up we got Summer Special, Flip That by LOONA. So it's been a little while since I talked about LOONA, and for a brief recap, I was quite a fan of their first two mini albums, Plus Plus and XX, and I liked some of their pre-debut releases as well. But starting with their 2020 comeback hashtag, I noticed a bit of a shift in the group's sound and creative direction, and I just think that they haven't really been the same ever since then. Their subsequent releases ever since then have been alright, but I can't help the feeling that a lot of what I liked about the group just isn't there anymore. But I digress. The latest album from LOONA, Summer Special, Flip That, is pretty solid overall. Title track Flip That is decently catchy, not infectious, but decently catchy, and I think it's a solid song overall. I really do enjoy the dance beats and the production. Great songwriting in second track, Need You. I think the vocal melodies are quite well done on that one, and they really do push the track forward. We got some cool ideas in the chorus of Pose. I really like the group chants, that's really cool. But come on, Pale Blue Dot is definitely the highlight of this album. You know, personally, I'll always appreciate a good Carl Sagan reference, but this is just a well-executed, well-written pop song. Again, solid vocal melodies that do keep things interesting from front to back. You know, just such a beautiful, kind of sentimental pop song that really does have that kind of eternal quality to it. It feels like it just keeps going past the end of the track, and that's something I only really say about pop songs that I really do enjoy. So, you know, this is a solid one. Now, to get a little nitpicky, I think that the vocal performances in particular could use a little bit more personality, and I'd like to hear some more distinction between members. Well, as I mentioned, I think the vocal melodies are well written, but they also just kind of feel flat and generic. I can't help but feel like there's just something missing from this album. And I'm not saying that you should be able to pick every single member apart from their voice, but I am saying that you should at least be able to pick one or two apart every now and then and hear that distinction. And I think that when they're able to just break it up like that, it actually does go a long way for a K-pop group. At least it does for me. And this might be a hot take, but there isn't really a member of LOONA whose personality comes across from the music and the music alone. And I think that that is something that the group does struggle with. But like I said, I'm being pretty darn nitpicky, and this is a pretty good album, 7.4 out of 10. Alrighty, next up we got Jack in the Box by J-Hope. I'm a pretty casual BTS fan. You know, I do enjoy quite a bit of their music. They have quite a bit of music out there, and I've always thought that the rapping verses in their songs are usually quite good. So I'm definitely open to the idea of a more hip-hop influenced solo album from BTS member J-Hope. Some very cool production going on in this one. Certainly reminds me of a lot of great, you know, alternative hip-hop that's come out recently, like Tyler, the Creator, Brockhampton, Injury Reserve, ASAP Rocky. I could go on. Execution is pretty good, but I feel like originality was a bit of an issue. Seemed to be riding a little too close to sounding like one of the artists that I just mentioned. The track Equal Sign really stood out to me on this album. You've got these really cool ambient experimental kind of background instrumental combined with a hip-hop beat, and then there's these really nice clean boy band sounding vocals in the chorus that sound like they only could have come from somebody in a boy band. Definitely felt like the most unique and interesting track on the album for me. And you know, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in East Asian hip-hop right now, so I can only hope that this album might serve as a bit of a gateway drug into that world. If you enjoyed this album, I would definitely have a lot of other recommendations for you, but overall, not bad at all. Pretty good album. 7.5 out of 10. Alrighty, next up, Forever One by Girls' Generation. I haven't really been listening to K-pop for that long of a time in relation to other genres of music, but I have been a nerd for quite a long time now, and that's why at least I've known about Girls' Generation for what feels like a long time. Even though I wasn't interested in K-pop, I was interested in reading manga and watching anime, and I feel like you don't really have to dip your head that deep into the water of that culture to at least know who Girls' Generation is. And, you know, I think that really speaks to their influence. Doing anything for 15 years is pretty impressive, but more so for a K-pop group to be around and together and active for that long is amazing. But I'm not out here giving bonus points for any of that. When I listen to the album Forever One by Girls' Generation and judge it by the music and the music alone, I think that it is totally awesome. In fact, a lot better than I thought it would be. I had the idea that this would be a bit of a fan service write-off, but I would say that this more so leans toward themes of fan appreciation and thankfulness. And, you know, they pull it off really well. First two tracks, Forever One and Lucky Like That, have Just such positive, feel-good vibes. It's almost transcendent at times. Ooh, when those vocals hit at the start of Lucky like that, it is angelic. Third track, 17. Very groovy and fun, with some very well thought out line distribution. I think throughout this album, the vocals are really what keep things interesting. Taeyeon, of course, is instantly recognizable, and I'm sure her recent solo success gave a lot of nice momentum and hype leading up to this comeback. Also, definitely enjoying the verses from members Hyoyeon and Tiffany, who have put out some solo music recently as well. While listening to this album, I'm reminded of another K-pop album that I enjoyed this year as well, from another veteran girl group. Horn by A-Pink, I enjoyed for a lot of the same reasons. These albums aren't necessarily trying to reinvent the wheel, but they're also not necessarily clinging desperately to what works. They deliver exactly what you enjoy about their music and gently brush upon some new possibilities and sounds. Speaking of which, track 5, You Better Run. What a cool and interesting vocal and synth line. Works so well and breaks up the album really nicely, and sets up things really nice for the disco pop track that follows, Closer. And just that last run of tracks at the end of the album, from Mood Lamp to Paper Plane, is so smooth. Overall, solid album. No skips. 8.4 out of 10. And there you have it. That was the first installment of K-Pop Ketchup. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on these albums, and your thoughts and opinions on my thoughts and opinions. I think that would be cool to hear. So, thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon, and catch you next time.